Is it on?
Yeah. 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 Alright. Alright. Yeah.
Get ready for Nicky Siano. Come on, let's go. Yeah, yeah. With Red Stack and Marvin Blue. Along the way with special guests for you.
Yeah. 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 Alright.
Hey, welcome to Nicky Siano Live. Too bad I couldn't hear anything of that beautiful introduction that Fabu Man made. I would have loved to share it with you, but I couldn't even fucking hear it. Never mind see it. So, you know what? Enjoy it. It's a wonderful piece of work, a piece of artistry. I wish we could have enjoyed it with you, but we didn't. Okay, not even the fucking sound. So, we're here at live. People have been late. I'm in a bad fucking mood, okay? I had a few things to say, a few spiritual things in my fucking mood. Okay, this is Dennis Kane, everybody. DJ, producer. How long have you been playing, Dennis? Since what year? What was your first gig, DJ gig?
Mid-90s, early 90s, really proper. But before that, I started playing records at a really young age. And not even calling it DJing, just playing records.
Yeah, we never called it DJing in the beginning. It was like it wasn't the club. It wasn't the disco. People started saying, I'm going to disco. No, it was just the club or the party. So you didn't call it DJing. You just called it playing records.
Yeah, I mean, I started collecting records. I had to be like 9 years old when I started leaving my neighborhood to try and go find records.
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Philadelphia, inner city Philadelphia.
Inner city
In
Philadelphia.
the 70s.
That's a pretty cool place to go find records, I think.
It was a great place to find records. It was a great city for music. Aside from that, it was a very violent city. It was a city with a mayor like Frank Rizzo.
Yeah,
it was
Philadelphia back then was scary.
It was scary. It was a brutal place. I saw a lot of violence. Got involved in a lot of stuff. But music
in
was
the 70s,
extraordinary.
New York wasn't safe either. I mean, people come to New York now, they think it's fucking Disney World. Back then,
It is Disney World.
I had a fucking gun to my head. I had a knife to my throat. I mean, it was fucking crazy.
Yeah, I got jacked. I got jacked. Yeah, I had a pair of.
Especially if you're into drugs, you go cop drugs and you got trouble. Or as they say on that show, Haven, the troubles.
The troubles.
So you grew up in Philly. Now downtown Philly, like, what's that strip that has all the stores now? It's really kind of built up.
like every other.
It's like the Village.
Post-industrial city. It's been gentrified and turned into a corporate landscape.
So it's Disney World light.
Yeah, it's Disney World light.
Okay.
I lived north of Spring Garden Street. It was like working class Irish, Puerto Rican, black neighborhood.
And which category did you fall into?
Because I had curly hair, they kept telling me I was Puerto Rican, or as the Irish people said, Porto. You're a Porto. But
I always got mistaken for Puerto Rican.
It was an odd mix of a neighborhood because each group was small and each group was kind of pretty much the same size. There were about as many blacks as there were Irish, and about as many Irish as there were Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. So everyone just kind of in this tiny little hamlet.
Wait, let me ask you just
along.
one thing. In the same neighborhood, everybody was equally proportionate?
The numbers were really close.
There wasn't like a street you would cross and it would be all Puerto Rican in that section.
Yeah, if you left our immediate little 4-block range, then you were going into 2OG territory and you could get jacked.
Okay.
But you could have an ambassador and then maybe you'd be okay. Like if I
Those
wanted,
ambassadors.
if I wanted to go to Maritza Mendez's house and play records,
Right.
I'd have to hook up an ambassador to get me over there.
And they made more money than anyone.
Can I have a Jackson?
What was
5?
her name?
Maritza
Maritza?
Mendez.
Maritza Mendez.
Yeah. I was
Yeah?
friends with
Did
her.
you have a thing with her?
No, I didn't have a thing with her.
relationship?
But what I liked was they had the furniture was covered in plastic. The floor was linoleum.
So was mine.
the floor was
Fucking my mother had the fucking plastical and not thin and in the summer you're wearing shorts and you sit on that thing, baby, you got burns when you get up.
And Maritza, she was a big fan of the Supremes, and I
like her already.
I was a big Four Tops, Jackson 5, OJ's person. But I would go to their house and play records, which was great. I was friends with her brother Orlando, and I guess I was in 8th grade, and Orlando hopped a train, fell off the train, and was cut in half.
Oh no!
That's what life in Philadelphia is like.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Well, let's get past Philadelphia. This is too depressing. So, at some age in the 90s, you started playing. What kind of music were you playing at that time?
Well, I started out collecting soul ballads, which I really, really liked. And then I discovered Jamaican covers of soul ballads, which were just like, to hear a Jamaican version of a Billy Stewart record was mind-blowing, or to hear a Jamaican version of the Spinners' I'll Be Around. You know, just... So, and I found that at the end of the day, when I went home, I liked to play ballads. So I started out actually really into ballads. But then, you know, I always liked soul and funk and disco, and was playing that. And then in the first real gigs that I got in New York, in other words, gigs that weren't playing before a band or something like that, I would play a mix. And, I mean, they called it old school hip-hop, but I just called it hip-hop, you know. So you'd be playing, like, you know, Frankie Beverly and Mays, and you would play Sugar Hill Gang, you would play Liquid, you would play this range of stuff, and no one really seemed to mind. Everyone was having a good time.
You're not talking about overlaying them. You're talking about actually just playing one back to back.
Maybe if you had it together, you could mix a Sugar Hill beat with a King Sunny Ade record.
Yeah.
And just
because
do
you were
like
saying you were into soul ballads, and I'm picturing, you know, you getting a beat from somewhere and mixing that over mixing the ballad over it.
No, I think when I started really DJing, like in places in Tribeca and playing like these art parties and stuff, then it was more DJing. Then I was trying to mix, and it was terrifying. So I would try to be really cautious and do less is more.
Safe. Yeah.
Less is more. And but also,
so you didn't have a little setup at home where you could practice
at that time. No. And the other thing was the interest at the time were the records and trying to build something and communicate with the audience through the records.
Right.
And to me, once I was even able to see a little bit of light through that doorway, I was hooked. It was beautiful, because then something that was very private and meditative became public.
So talk to me about this, communicating to the audience through the music.
Well, I mean, not in a literal sense, but you're in a situation where you have people's desire and attention, and it's your responsibility to sort of build a structure that lets everyone get loose on deeper levels, and to keep building it, not rush it to one sort of quick finish, but establish things. And then I started, real interesting thing, I started to think about time very quickly, because I thought, well, geez, I need more time. I want more time. I don't want to play for 2 hours. I want to play longer. I want more time to establish a mood and really build it.
I'll tell you, I hate it when I walk into a club and it's 10 o'clock, the club has just opened, and the DJ is at full volume plus, and the BPM is about 125 per minute, and that's like as fast as I go. Other people go up to 135. Well, once in a while, but 125 is about my top. And when I walk into a club, I want to relax a little bit at 10 p.m. when it
Right.
just opened. I want to feel the build of the night. And I'm glad you're talking about that, because I'm going to do a commercial right here. That's something that only happens at one party in New York, and that's Native New Yorker. And we're having the next party August 17th at the Good Room. Don't miss it. Victor Rosado is my guest, so I'll be playing from 10 until 2:30. Victor's going to close the night for as long as you want. If you come out strong, we'll play until 5 or 6. And in the bad room, Love Tempo. So come down. August 17th, that's only 2 parties this year. First one happened, my birthday party, and this is the second. That's it. Native New Yorker, don't miss it. Good Room, August 17th. Sorry, Dennis.
This has been a Nicky Siano commercial.
Yes, that's I paid that commercial time.
Nicky approves of this content. So yeah, I mean, just the idea that you would build something that.
But how did that come to you? Did you hear someone doing that, or did you actually just naturally feel that this is too loud, this is too fast, this is too something for me right now?
I mean, I have pretty sensitive hearing, and I always find it off-putting, even disorienting sometimes, to go into a club and it's really, really loud. And the music, if the music's too fast and too loud, it's the worst. And I've never understood why, when no one's there, you would have any impetus to play loud or to play fast. Lower it. People pay more attention. Go slow. Let people feel the rhythm in their bodies. Give them time.
I'm with you 100%.
And I just don't get it. And it's, I can't tell you how many times I've had someone playing before me doing that and just thinking, well, I'm just going to have a moment of silence and not do anything.
Change the mood.
Yeah, just
say, I'm starting. I'm going to just play nothing for a minute and tell you I'm here to do a sweet set instead of just nothing. Because that to me is nothing. That's someone not thinking, not looking, not absorbing the energy in the room, and just playing and doing something that is totally outside of the realm of what you need to be done.
Also, I think it's a thing where maybe nerves play a part of it. And it's like, oh, geez, there's no one here and no one's dancing. And if I play faster and louder, suddenly people materialize. I don't know. But it doesn't work. But the other thing is, you were saying, where did I get the idea?
Yes. That's a biggie to me.
Growing up as a kid, I think one of the best presents I ever got, my older brother gave me a turntable and a decent pair of headphones. And he always let me have access to his records, and he had different records than I did. But, there's no internet at the time. There's no cable.
Nothing.
There's nothing. So records were everything. So to get, like, the Chicago Transit Authority album, and to go through the entire album and listen to each song, and to really get into each song and say, oh, look at this intro, and it's the Democratic National Convention, and it's free-form guitar, and this is like incredible playing, and then there's this beautiful harmony and this great horn section. Well, suddenly you're transported.
Right.
Especially
Absolutely.
if you turn the lights out and it's dark. And then you just start going from song to song. And that's what I mean, all these years later, I still like to just sit and listen to music.
Me too.
And somehow, I think DJing should have that intimacy and breath to it as well.
Yeah, I asked you that about where did you hear that or learn that? Because when I grew up, DJs played from opening to closing. That's how it was. You didn't have a relief. You didn't have several DJs a night. You had only one DJ. And very early on, everyone understood that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to the night. And you sort of built your night with those things in mind. You didn't start at a very loud volume because you saved everyone's ears that way. It was just didn't sound right with an empty room at full volume. So I had a lot of people who were examples to me, but you already were in the realm of 2-hour sets for each DJ, and that's I was asking because of that, because
again, I think the other thing I did a lot when I was a kid was I listened to radio. So when you first say the word DJ, I think of it as someone who's an overnight person, who's playing, King Crimson, or who's playing Delphonics.
Did you ever listen to Alison Steele, the
No,
Night Owl?
that's New York. I was
that's
listening
New York,
to MMR in Philadelphia.
What's that guy in Philly who was very big in the dance music? I was on the disco cruise with him.
There was a guy named Butterball. He was like the Frankie Crocker of Philadelphia.
It's not him, but he looks like a butterball now.
That's what
That's him?
That's what Butterball looked like back then. I remember Butterball.
Do you remember his name? Tell me. No.
He interviewed whoever was big and came into Philadelphia. I remember
I think
him.
I have it on this shirt.
I remember an interview he had with Rick James that was legendary, because Rick
Oh,
James was
okay.
so out of his mind.
Out of it?
Out of his mind.
Well, back then, people came on out of their minds, and often you'd get a great interview like that.
This was right around the time of, I think it was right around the time of Jaws or Close Encounters, and Rick James comes on and he goes, "You know that guy that, what's his name? He's a Jewish man. Steven Spielberg. He's going to direct my life story. He's going to do the Rick James." And I'm like a kid, and I was just like,
I
wow.
remember on Howard Stern, Sam Kinison coming on in the morning after he'd been out all night, and he's still drinking, and he's got 5 girls in tow, and it was just hysterical. A hysterical radio. Too bad radio has died. It was a really great thing.
Yeah, I mean that was a time when Rick James was at the top of the heap.
Yeah, he always thought he was at the top of the heap, but
Well, hell of a jug.
so okay.
So the
So
idea,
when did
the
you-
idea of radio, the idea that you could really explore music and think about music in depth, that just had more appeal to me than, like, I was actually surprised when I started seeing DJs do things like tricks and a kind of manipulative relationship to the audience. Like when for a while.
What do you mean, like tricks? Like put on different hats or put on a pig's head?
Knock it off,
I
Nicky.
never heard of something
Don't-
like that.
don't- stop. Just stop. No, like you would see people have these little routines. It's like, oh, I'm going to play this loose ends break, and then I'll go into a hip hop song, and then I'll cut back into this.
Oh,
and
with their mixing.
yeah, and it was like really cheesy. And
I just want to ask you, what did you say? Is someone's asking a question or something?
No, I texted the name. I have to remember.
Okay.
Bobby Pantano.
Bob Pantano.
no, I didn't know him.
Oh,
That's
okay.
I think that's after.
No, this is 70s. He played all during the 70s. Saturday Night Show. Bob Pantano.
Butterball was the big guy that I remember.
Oh, okay.
But whatever. And
If
Tony-
anyone asks a good question, Alex, just let us know.
Tony
okay?
Brown, make it a Brown night with Tony.
Oh,
he was the overnight soul guy on WDAS.
DS.
Yeah.
So, how do you? No, I want to ask you this. I mean, you're very involved in music. How do you feel about this whole total death of radio? I mean, and no one listens to the radio anymore. It's rare.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't exist anymore. But at the same time, people in the subway, more often than not, have a podcast in their earbuds.
Or they're
at work.
listening to iTunes, or they're listening to something they downloaded, music or something. They're always listening on the subway. So there's definitely an alive portion of communication, music, and stuff like that going out. It's
Yeah.
just
So I think there's an
the form.
audience. I think there's an audience. I think people want it, and I just think that you can find different ways. I think with music it's a little different. I think I've noticed this. I'm a dad, and I noticed this with my son and his friends. Like they just kind of swim through the interweb and just get whatever they want. They know how to find music, but they don't have a tastemaker sort of dictating for them.
Right,
There is no
right.
Frankie Crocker
Right.
on the web. Like they sort of do their own thing.
right.
And there's a great variety of taste. And I was just a funny thing. My son graduated 8th grade, and he said, "Oh, we're gonna we're going to have a party. And I said, well, that's great.
Oh,
But it was, they called it, he didn't say this to me, but they called it a prom, and it was a boat, and it was sailing around the city. And they had a DJ. And I said, oh, well, good luck with that. And he was just rolling his eyes. Now, I don't make a big deal out of the DJ stuff at home.
Right.
But it's been a great thing. He has tremendous taste. He brought me
that's so good.
He brought me this King Crimson cover of a Donovan record.
Wow.
And he was like, what do you think? I think this is pretty
Which
good.
Donovan record? If you guys don't know who Donovan is, he was a recording artist in the 60s, really. And, he was so cute with that curly hair. And he did a song called Atlantis and Sunshine, something or other. And he did, I have his greatest hits. Really, every song is good.
I think it's called Get Thy Bearings is the name of the song.
I don't know.
But it was just beautiful. I was blown away by it. And then was watching the Bob Dylan documentary, and he said, oh, you know this one Dylan song? And, I was like, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Cool.
it's... But I also see the kids in the neighborhood, the people, the kids, friends' kids, and they're just, it's an atomized relationship to music. There isn't a singular narrative. So I think some people are going to have really good taste, and some people aren't. But here's the question I do have. Are people going to have the attention span? Because it's one thing to go through and listen to an 8-minute song and say, wow, that's beautiful. I'm going to listen to it again. Or to listen to a fragment of a song, answer your email, be on Snapchat, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's a different notion of duration and time.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many vinyls and CDs I had to buy again because I played them so much that they had deficiencies, and there were everything I listened to. I would never listen to one cut. It was always when I bought an album, it had to be good, everything. And back then, things were played. They played the whole album, and people were into it because every song was good. Now, forget about it. I've listened to some of these albums that are out. I just can't stand all this canned stuff. I think we have to get back to live musicians somewhere in the mix.
Well, it's funny. Like, I remember it was like a big thing in our neighborhood. I had this friend, Wayne, and his brother was a drug dealer. And and his brother's... buddy was a dentist, and they had some deal worked out through his dentist office.
Amel?
But he had an amazing apartment, and it was just so great to go over there, and like he was living well, and he had a quad system, and like to sit and listen to like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon
In quad?
It just was like
Blow your way,
mind blowing.
Yeah.
And we would you could have a group of people just hang out, smoke some weed, and listen to this music.
I'll never forget when Love Is the Message came out in quad. There was that extra organ part in it that you heard, and everyone's like, oh, get the quad. It has that extra organ part in it. Oh, my God. It's like a big thing. You got a question for someone?
For Dennis, it's a question from Rick Robin.
From Rick Robin.
Consider yourself multi-talented in a sense, an artistic sense. Do you also paint, or do you do other...
Okay, have you considered yourself multi-talented, multi-artistic, in a sense?
Yeah,
Because you do a lot of artistic things. You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I make paintings and drawings. I've done a lot of writing. I've built pretty much every space that I've lived in and designed them.
Wow.
I've done graphic design. So, yeah, of course. I mean, everything's an art project.
Everything.
Even
life.
Even sex. So... I mean,
there you go. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Hopefully.
Hopefully it doesn't come too soon, too. So I wanted to ask you something about, let's move forward. You came to New York.
And I was coming to New York for graduate school, and I was studying theory and fine art. So I was reading...
And what school?
I started at Columbia, and then I went to the Hunter for a studio program, and then to the Graduate Center for my post.
The Graduate Center is where?
Graduate Center is directly across from the public library. and it's part of the city university.
System.
And
So you couldn't afford Columbia anymore?
No. Are you kidding me?
Hunter was a great school, and it is a great school, and it's a city university, so it's very reasonable.
Well, when I was there in the art department, Robert Morris was there, Rosalind Krauss was there. I mean, there were a lot of bad formalist abstract painters who were on tenure and just sclerotic, but there were some people who were very, very good, and it was a great experience.
You didn't send us any of your art.
There's a link. We can put it up.
There's a link.
Yeah, it's a bunch of work.
I went through some of your links, and the one that I stopped at was, Fabian, can you put up that article that was about David Mancuso? This is the article that you... Now, did you write this article, or you did?
Yeah, they just asked me to write something, so...
But there was some other guy credited at the top.
Oh, they put it together. No, you spoke and I spoke. I think we both spoke.
Right, yeah, because I spoke to you on the phone about it.
Yeah.
And David Mancuso had just died, and this was, about a year and a half ago now?
Yeah.
And Dennis participated in building an article about David, and he told me some really interesting stories on the phone. Could you share any of them?
Yeah,
with
sure.
me? Okay, so David used to call you. David Mancuso was the owner of the Loft, and I consider him to be, for me, growing up in New York City, he was the most influential club owner on club owners and DJs who came after him, like me. The Loft and the Gallery really did more for clubbing than any other two clubs in the early 70s. This is before the Garage, before Studio 54. Those clubs opened in 1977. I'm talking about David opened in 1970. I opened in 72. So we were predecessors of those clubs and influenced all the people that worked and built those clubs. But you said to me something that really struck me, because he did this to me too. David called you one night at 3 a.m. Was it just once, or
no.
he would often
No.
call you one night at 3 a.m.?
Yeah.
And what would he say? Like, what was the normal thing you talked about with him?
Well, I remember one time he called, and I was cranky, and I said, David, it's 4:22. And he said, yeah. And I said, a.m. He goes, a.m. or p.m.? It's all time.
He said, no, you told me. You said, well, it's p.m. somewhere in the
Right.
world.
Yeah, like he had that.
He had an answer for everything, David.
But he was very thoughtful. He remembered my birthday, and
Every year or just one?
No, he would call. He'd call on Christmas, and he'd call on my birthday. He knew that I had lost my parents young. He knew that I was alone, and for him, for some reason, I mean, more than it was for me. Although in retrospect, it's very touching. He would always check in on those days, which was really quite beautiful.
I think maybe that meant a lot to him because he grew up in an orphanage.
Right.
Even though he knows who his mother is, he seemed to have been, I don't know, left in an orphanage for a time. But it influenced him in his parties because sister, whatever her name was, used to put up big balloons and everything, and he always pointed to her when he talked about the balloons that he used to decorate with. But the only time he called me late at night was he was screaming about Mel Sharon's book, that Mel had printed a story that Larry Levan told him that Larry and he were sleeping together. Now, Larry Levan also told me that story. So I kind of said to David, you mean it's not true? And he said, no, it's not true. And you better tell Mel I'm going to come after him. How dare he? I'm still alive. Why didn't he call me and ask me? He didn't even check the facts here. What the hell is going on with Mel? He went crazy. And rightfully so. I wouldn't want anyone writing in a book that I slept with someone that I never slept with.
He lived in, down the block from me. He wasn't far, and I would see him in the street, and I'd sort of give him shit, bust his balls a little bit, but I'd have him over for lunch, and he'd say, "You know what I like about your apartment? I said, what? He goes, everything but the sound system. And I said to him, I said, you know what I like about your apartment? I said, and he goes, what? I said, the sound system.
That's about it, right? That tiny little apartment.
Yeah, so he would come over and we'd have lunch, and I would play him records, and I think he liked it because I was playing records that were sort of close to what he was interested in, but were different. There were things that he didn't know or hadn't heard, and he enjoyed them. Like, I remember I played Greg Perry for him, and he was like, wow, that's really good. And then I started giving him, just kind of on the low, giving him a couple records here and there.
It's really great to hear new music that you don't know. As a DJ, I love, because I could listen to a lot of different things for hours and hours and hours and not hear anything good. But when a friend turns you on, it's like within minutes you're hearing something that's good.
And he was really very generous. He's like, if you ever want a record, if there's anything you want, just come and take it. You can use it whenever you like. And I remember he played the, what is it called, 94 East?
Yeah.
That record. Mm-hmm. And it's such a beautiful groove.
It is.
That's for people who don't know, that's a compilation of Minneapolis's finest, and Prince is on it, and
right.
Jimmy Jam and Terry, and the ride out on that one song is beautiful, and that was a big song of his.
He found all these very unusual songs very appealing, especially on his sound system. David's sound system made certain things sound a lot better than they sounded on other systems. And if a record worked sonically in his room, he would often just play it for the sonics.
Yeah, and the other thing is, there's a kind of, along with the fidelity, there's kind of a gentleness to that system, so that if a song was well recorded, it really popped. It really had a live feeling to it, which was great.
So David was very famous for playing on these high-end Klipschorn speakers, Klipschorn's corner horns, which are really wonderful sounding speakers. And the whole deal about it is Klipsch made them so that they sit in a corner because the room becomes part of the speaker, and therefore it gives you a lower and deeper, warmer bass sound. And you can't get a cabinet that big, but his thought was, let me make the room part. It was a brilliant idea, brilliant. And so I want to ask you something. Someone I know had to go and pick up David in the middle of the night once at the hospital. Mm-hmm. And he was wearing nothing at all but a cape. And he was they found him walking down the street in nothing at all but a cape. I want to ask you, did you ever see him in this cape?
No. I think capes might be making a comeback, though.
I know.
I think it's a good look. I think you just gave me a fashion idea. I'm going cape from now on. When I come back the next time, naked in a cape.
Naked in a cape.
Get ready.
So you never came over and he was naked in a cape. That's okay. Revealing the depths. Okay, so you played and held down residencies at Cielo, Output, Santos Party House, Love. Oh, I love that space. And 10 years at Saturday.
10. 9 and change.
9 and change at APT, which I played a guest spot for you there.
Yep.
But does it kill you because all these places are closed?
Well, time keeps on moving.
Time keeps on moving.
No.
Wait, did you close any of them? Did you play closing night at any of them?
No.
Okay.
And Santos.
Is that really how you look at it? You don't feel a little bit of Santos? I really loved. Cielo in the beginning was fantastic. Output, I could have done without it. Oh, I didn't say that. And
Nicky, learn to express yourself. Don't be so shy.
Love was my favorite.
I liked Gary a lot, and I had a good friendship, even though I argued with him a lot. He was very funny in his cantankerousness, and I would say things to him like, Gary, I like mids too. There's too much mids in this mix.
He was very committed to the dance scene.
He would argue, the thing that I can say about him, everything that he touched or everything that he did just reflected the level of care. And playing at Love, as a system, it was just phenomenal.
It was a phenomenal system because it was over there was too much equipment for that small room.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. I love when you don't have to strain a system.
No, and and I don't know how to explain this exactly, but there was something about the way it was set up that you didn't feel like you had to do any lifting. Like you just
Right.
let the records do the job. You know, be gracious, move from record to record. Think more about the progress of the songs. Don't fuss with the system too much. It's there already. And watch the volume because you don't need to kill
You
the
don't
people.
I
And
had one of my birthday parties there. I think 50.
yeah, I did a number of nights there, and man, I tell you, the club had tons of other issues, but the sound system was great. And then I was really disappointed because he did District 36, and I went up there right as he finished it, and he said, "Bring some records. I want you to try this. I think it's the best thing I've ever done."
Oh.
And I said, "Oh, great." And I went and met the people who were running it, who were, you know, I couldn't understand why people like this had bothered to hire someone
Wait a
like
minute.
Gary.
Gary was the DJ at Love, you're saying?
No,
He was
did
the owner,
sound.
too.
No,
He did the
sa-
sound?
He did the sound.
What was his last name?
Gary Stewart?
Gary Stewart.
GSA.
Okay. So he owned Love?
No, he didn't own one.
The-
Stephen Weber.
Stephen Weber.
Yeah.
That's who I thought. Well, Gary
a
Stewart
whole
was
different
partners with
podcast.
my best friend and the guy who does my sound all the time, Danny Pruseda.
Mm-hmm.
That was his partner in GSA. But that room was... It was downstairs, right off 8th Street, and it was a very famous club in the late 60s and 70s called the Bonsoir. And that is where Barbra Streisand started. So it had a real history,
Right.
that space, and a lot of a vibe in there that I didn't feel in other places. And it was so, even though you could fit a lot of people in it,
It was intimate.
It was very intimate.
Yeah, it was intimate.
It was the rooms were all, and he made these little cabins, like little cave. Everywhere was a cave. It was just so nicely done.
But Gary did a tremendous job with the sound design.
Oh, absolutely.
And he did a phenomenal job at District 36. And what I was going to say is I went up there.
I didn't know Gary played, but as well.
He didn't play. He just
okay.
designed the system,
Oh,
and
okay.
he wanted me to come and play. He said, "It's finished now." And it was the most beautiful DJ booth I'd ever been in.
Oh, a really big booth with all the equipment laid out conveniently.
Yeah,
Believe it or
ergonomically
not.
wise.
Yeah. It was like something from heaven for a DJ. They always think the last thing is the DJ booth.
Right.
Make it small, make it uncomfortable, make it hot, and fuck you, Mr. DJ.
I asked for a monitor. Yeah, there's one in the broom closet down the hall. You want me to turn it up?
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
When I work overseas, like I send them this rider, and you go there, nothing is done on your rider. It's
In capital letters. 2 turntables that actually work.
and are suspended, so
Yeah.
you don't get feedback. Thank you, or skipping. You know.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I did this one place, and I'd flown. It was in Asia and Southeast Asia, and I'd flown so far, and I had 2 bags of records. And part of what they were saying was, he's coming and he's going to play vinyl. And they were like, "We build a special booth, come out and do a sound check. It's going to be wonderful, you know." And I came out and I did the sound check, and I said, "Hey, not for nothing, it's not bad." I said, "But I need 2 boxes to put the records in, and I need a table." The guy said, "Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it." And I said, "Well, so far everything's been good. I'm going to go back to bed. I don't come on for a while.
Right.
I'm going to sleep." So in between the sound check and that, they put a giant sub under the turntable.
Oh no! Oh no! Right under the
Yeah.
turntables.
So turntables no go.
You know.
And then the table that they'd given me,
So then you had to play. You had to play CDs or
yeah,
something.
I just ad-libbed, and it was fine. It worked out, but it was it was just, I just had a laugh. And the table that they...
If you're just a lay person and you're designing sound, turntables and bass horns do not get along if the turntables are not suspended from the ceiling, because the bass travels through the floor, up the legs of the table, and then all you hear is feedback.
Right, or if it's powerful enough, the records just
Or a
skip.
hum.
The records just skip.
Yeah,
And,
if it's powerful enough, the records will skip.
and then people just look at you like...
It's
well,
your fault.
What,
It's the DJ's fault.
What are you going to... What? What?
No, the best is just 4 months ago, they told me, Nicky, I'm getting you a job at the hottest club in London. This club is the hottest fucking club in London. And it was one where I walked in, none of the stuff is there. They've got one CDJ. I have 3 that I need. But on and on and on. And then I finally say, okay, I got to do this gig. Got to just get through it. A lot of people came out to see me. The room was packed. And I'm trying to put my stuff down, and there's this much dirt on every surface. This much. I'm afraid to put anything down anywhere. I built a hook on the end of the fucking turntable ledge and stuck it, and I started hanging my stuff all over. He said, "What are you doing?" I'm hanging my stuff because I'm not putting it on this shit. It was just disgusting.
It's funny. Here's the... I said this. I was talking with a guy who owned a venue in London, and he said you were very professional, but I could tell you were upset. And I said, you're paying me. I'm doing a job. I'm going to do a good job. I'm going to make sure this crowd's happy. And everyone had a good time. I said, but these are the problems. And they were all fairly basic problems that
Could be fixed.
in an hour and a half,
Right.
with some care, taken care of. And I said to him, I said, it's not like you booked me and then a juggler and then a magician and then we're going to have a pyrotechnic show.
Right.
It's just me.
Yeah.
That's it. From 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, it's just me.
One person.
And I'm good with that. I'm good. I don't need a
okay.
bathroom break.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
You're fine.
Just make the equipment work. And
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like I'm asking for a lot.
No, it doesn't.
And he's just like, but what you realize is that people don't walk the problem down. They don't walk through the sentence and say, oh, yeah, this has to work, this has to work, this has to be. There should be a checklist. And I have to say, a lot of places have gotten better. If you go to Japan, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Everything's super attended to
Well,
and really thoughtful.
yes.
So I don't want to make it like it's
Japanese
always...
are very careful with their equipment, maintenance, and with their booth. They're very clean. It's very nice, Japan. Very nice. But people today, I think the DJs are discounted in the design and the upkeep of the equipment. And back then, it was like the DJs would come in and clean the booth, and because they felt like a sense of ownership, because they would play there 8 hours a night, 3 nights or 4 nights a week, so they wanted to upkeep everything. We have another question.
Both you guys.
For both of
What
us.
are your thoughts?
I should give you a mic.
What are your thoughts on Anita Sarko?
From Anita. You need a...
About Anita Sarko.
About Anita Sarko. What about her?
Well, I knew her briefly. I knew her through friends, and then I ended up interviewing her probably about a year before she died. And she was very, very angry about a lot of stuff.
I'm sure.
And she pretty much felt like like she was like, I created the Mud Club. And I was like, well, I don't know. I know Justin, I know Johnny Dynell. I have great respect for them. She's more of a hostess than a DJ, but I think a person of sort of good cosmopolitan wit and good taste, who kind of was in a unique place at a time when women were not getting to be in that place.
I just want to say, quick commercial, Johnny Dynell from the Mud Club will be on the pod.
Johnny One Arm.
Johnny fell and hurt himself. He was supposed to be on next week, but next week will be Jeannie Hopper, who, Liquid Sound Lounge, she's going to bare her chest. And
Really?
yeah,
Did you check that out with her?
I mean, she's going to tell her soul problems.
All right, then I'm naked caping it. Get ready.
Johnny Dinell, August 7th, talking all about the Mud Club because I used to go to the Mud Club.
Great stories. I interviewed him once at Output, and we had the best time, just the two of us talking. We pretended we were in a chalet in Switzerland.
Johnny's a character. I love him.
Awesome.
He's awesome.
He's awesome.
Did you ever go to Jackie Christie when he was like hosting?
I
that
went
party?
there once.
Oh my God. It was so dynamically filled with people to look at and entertain you. It was sort of like Studio 54. It was like everywhere you looked, there was eye candy and people dressed up. And it was
his
wonderful.
stories are phenomenal. His stories about Joni Mitchell alone are crazy. And he's really one of those things. Like I feel lucky when I run into him in Tompkins Square Park. He's one of those. Yeah. It's one of those things like, oh yeah, New York. Remember New York? It was badass. You know, so it's great.
There's not many people left who are native New Yorkers.
It's great that you're having Johnny on.
Yeah, Johnny, August 7th, and next week.
And Jeannie
Hopper.
Right on.
So, let's go through these things you sent to me. Can we see that, the visual for, now, pronounce it,
Syntome.
Yeah. Which is your record label?
It was a label I ran for about 5 or 6 years. And
so it's closed?
It's not closed. It's just not been active. Okay. There's actually some stuff coming out.
It's your label?
Yeah, it's me. Just me alone. And Ghost Town is...
It's like me. You do everything.
Yeah. And Ghost Town is
it's very stressful.
Is an imprint, and Ghost Town 11 will be out in October.
Oh, Ghost Town 11 will be out in October. A little plug. Ghost Town. Don't miss Ghost Town 11. Do you have 1 through 10? I hope so. If you don't, go out and get them before you get 11. I mean, you got to get them in chronological order.
Nicky and I are going to start selling swords now.
And not the ones you thought of first.
Where's my cape?
It's right there on the chair. Alex, could you reach behind you and get that black piece of cape right there?
I got a strip.
Okay.
It's a family program, but whatever. I love it. Oh, man, I love it.
Wait. It's really a cape.
This is what's up. This is what's up.
Now that's a look.
Hold
That's a look. You should have come in it.
I might yet.
Look, the dog loves it.
The dog loves it.
Oh, it's inside out, but who cares?
I'm riding the train in this.
Could you believe that I actually had a cape?
Yeah. Yeah.
Available. Do you see that piece of artwork?
Which?
The one in the middle there with the head?
With the MJ head?
The head. Yeah. That's MJ? No, that's not MJ. That's from the gallery.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Could we turn the camera around and get a shot of that, Alex? We have a piece of artwork from the gallery, Christopher Estra. Can we do it? You think? Here we go. Careful. There it is. The head from the gallery. That's it. Looks good, doesn't it? After all these years, 40 years later, it's still there.
I remember a photo you showed me, or sent me in an email, of you painting the space with Larry.
Painting with Larry, yeah.
Just like, which I could only imagine is the world's worst house painter.
Larry and I used to... this is the first gallery. I met Larry Levan in 1970, right after we opened the gallery, the end of 72. Larry and Frankie came to the club, and I hired them both. Frankie first, and then he brought Larry. And they were my decorators for years. And Larry and I used to go to the club, and we used to stick rags in the paint and roll them on the wall with our hands and make these designs
right.
with the rags, and we would like be so into it. I guess we were tripping or something. And we would make these designs on the wall, and then everyone would come through and, what the fuck is that on the wall? That's our sky, Larry would say. That's the new sky wall. And he would name them all. And he would give this delivery like, it's the sky wall. It's like, Larry, you kidding
I
me?
like that you said we were tripping or something.
Or something. It was tripping or weed or... Back then, it was very, very... We were very, very innocent. Weed, tripping,
Yeah, but
angel dust.
that's all good stuff in terms of it's going back into making the party special. It's not a random thing. You're building something, which is something I think that we really need now. We need dedicated parties that have a kind of investment to them that aren't just random and banal, because the suburbanization of dance music has happened and it's boring. And
Absolutely.
it needs some personal investment and not going back to the way it was. Doing
we're
something
not asking
different.
for that. I'm not asking
No,
to
and
go backwards. I want to go forward.
Right
man.
on.
I want to go fucking forward, but really give it a little bit of love. Give it a little bit of, personal touches. I mean, the people sometimes at the door actually yell at people who are coming in. How could you yell at someone who's coming in,
Right,
paying
you're the host.
admission at your club? How could you do that? I went to this club just 2 weeks ago, and it's I forget, it's called the House or something, and these people at the door were so rude to me. The guy looked at me like I was from Mars, and I played there once or twice, and I didn't understand how they expect people to pay for that kind of attitude. They think it's like, I don't know, like it's hip to be rude. Like they thought it's studio after a while. They thought it was hip.
It's just bad form.
It is.
It's bad form. You want people to feel good, and you want. I think you want a crowd that's. There's a lot of hand gesticulation going on behind the scenes.
Yes, there is a little bit.
You want a crowd that's mixed, and you want a crowd that wants to be there that just doesn't happen to be there. And I think you have to make the effort to make that happen. And I'm actually looking for a space. I want to start something because I'm not feeling any place, especially right now in the city, and I want to make something happen. Even if it's small, I really don't care if it's small.
No, it should be small.
I want to leave feeling incredible.
Have you been to Toshi's?
Yeah, Tosh from A1.
Yeah,
of course. And he's a wonderful guy.
That's a nice little spot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's set up like I would want to set something up. It's really not. It needs a little bit, a little bit more bigger, but it's sweet. That was a really big thing back then. A lot of people would stay at their clubs for days at a time. Larry lived in the back of the Paradise Garage for a while. I lived at the gallery for about the first year, and David, of course, lived at the Loft all of the Loft's life until they closed the theater on 3rd Street. And that was something that you couldn't do that with just a regular corporate owner who just turns the keys. That kind of feeling and buzz
you
and
can't.
atmosphere. When someone's living at the club, it's kind of a buzz in there.
We did, Darshan and I did the Strobe Lodge parties for about, 5.5 years. And they were exhausting. I mean, to do one was a 24-hour day. And we would get a place set up, and the joke would be, oh, yeah, now we have to DJ.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you're yelling, are the flowers here? Is there enough ice? You're on top of everything. The first one we did, I remember Dar was in the airport in Paris or someplace, and he's calling me, and he's like, I think I got an extra porta potty. Yeah, and I'm in an appliance store buying the biggest air conditioner I can get my hands on.
Your hands on. Yeah.
And we did it. And the first one we did in a loft on Canal Street. And I think it's, I still hear from people, that's got to be over 14 years ago, 15 years ago. And it changed people's lives. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I remember taking a break at one point and going outside, and I literally had smoke coming off my
Yeah.
clothes because the place was going off.
Yeah, Native New Yorker parties. I like that. They go crazy at the parties.
And the other thing that was kind of amazing about those parties, you could tell that the people felt invested, because what we did is we charged a fee, but then open bar.
right, that's a great way to go.
Yeah.
Because you can't sell liquor. You didn't have a liquor license, so you had an open bar. That's great.
Yeah, and we worked with people to get cheap liquor or liquor sponsorship. No content, no nothing. Just give us booze and get out of the way. But the other thing is, once people put the money in, they felt invested.
Yeah.
So they'd
If
stay.
someone puts money, oh yeah.
But the sense of when those parties went off, they went off like nothing else. And the sense of real connection to the crowd and the sense of joy that you would see from people, suddenly you forgot that you'd been working for 15 hours already.
That's one thing about giving a party. If you really want to do it right, you're working all day the day of.
Yeah.
And a lot before. I mean, you're working constantly
It's a lot of
on
work.
the event.
Yeah,
It is.
and then everything needs to go back. I remember one morning, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and Darshan and I are returning a truck, and then having to go move a turntable, and then get in his car, and then
Right.
go from his car back to the studio, drop off turntables, and then I finally go home, and I'm like, okay, for 2 days, I'm off the map. Like,
People come into the Native New Yorker parties and say, these balloons, they look so nice. Yeah, we've been here since 6 p.m. blowing them up and putting
Right.
them up. It's like it's a big commitment.
but there's a kind of joy that is very childlike, and it's doesn't you almost never get that even in a club where you are there for a long time and have a say.
yeah.
It's just not the same.
The joy on people's faces. I mean, the pictures from Native New Yorker are always like, wow, look at those people's faces. They look so happy. Really, it's not put on. It's like from inside out.
Well, that's the idea where the architecture of the space and the planning of the party
Right.
match what the music is about, which is love and transformation.
And
getting people to someplace.
It's about intent.
Yeah.
It's about what you put out, you get back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to talk about this. When people wake up in the morning, sometimes they'll say things like, I'll never have enough money. And then you find yourself never having enough money. Why? Because you're creating your own space. Do you believe in that, Dennis?
No, I think that your intentions can't be about things. Life is short. Death is certain. So you have to live accordingly, and you have to there's a great in Godard's self-portrait. He says, "I want to be the name I give myself. I say I am one who loves. So I have to live in a way that gives meaning to that. You have to live with love, and you have to enact it in what you do. You can't focus on those other things. I mean, one of the things that cracks me up when I go through the New Yorker is the ads in the front, and it's always some dude, and he's like 55, and it's either for an investment company so he can, take his sailboat out, or as Viagra so he can drive his car and still get wood. And I was like, that's because he gave away the best part of his life.
His heart.
Yeah, and this is all he's got. He's got a car and a boat. He's like a kid with a couple of toys. It's really sad.
Yeah, we've been sold this bill of goods that the more you have and the stuff you have will dictate your happiness, and it's just not so.
No, I mean, it's funny, when I was in graduate school, I worked doing carpentry, and for the most part, I worked on the Upper East Side, and I worked for the richest of the rich.
For those outside of New York, the Upper East Side is our rich neighborhood.
Like beyond
rich.
Beyond rich. And those people, and again, that's a generalization, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but they were miserable.
Most of them, yeah.
They were absolutely miserable. They lived some kind of weird, entitled imprisonment. And, you could tell the husbands couldn't wait to get to the limo to get down to Wall Street.
Get away from the wife. Yeah, I was cleaning apartments for a while I got sober. And in the 80s, and we had a lot of apartments up on the Upper East Side, and the fanciest part of the Upper East Side is this little tiny York Avenue turns into this little tiny 6-block street called Sutton Place. And they have all these apartment buildings, but when you go into the apartment buildings, every apartment is like a house. They have like 10 rooms, 2 floors. They have these big libraries all made of wood that I had to clean the books on. And it just was endless. And all these people were sitting there with the worst empty looks on their face. I didn't
Giant
understand.
TVs.
Yeah, like giant. Well, this was in the 80s, so giant TVs were 29 inches. Could you imagine? Sony Classic. We got another question? Oh, the bitches are active tonight. Thank you, bitches.
All right, so
Maybe we should give him the mic. Go ahead. Tell me.
Larry Levan, familiar?
Larry
So
Levan.
you
Yeah.
played a song at the Paradise Garage by Marian Faithfull's Why'd You
Yeah.
Do It?
Why'd you do that to me? Why'd you fuck your
Question
girlfriend?
So since this song was used to rile the crowd up,
Yes, it
what's
was.
the thought process behind this, it being such a dark song?
Yeah, there were lines in the song like,
Why'd
"Why'd
you
you
spit on
suck
my
his
sash?"
dick? Why did you let him touch your snatch?" and all that shit. And I used it sometimes behind something, but Larry was a real dichotomy. He was a real kind of multifaceted person, and sometimes he'd be feeling love and sometimes he'd be feeling hate. And if he was feeling hate to someone in that room, he would let everybody know about it. And that's just Larry. That's just the way he was. He was very emotional, and depending on the drugs he used that night, he would let those emotions fly.
Have you ever been able to play sort of out of specific anger or specific sadness or any? Because I usually find that once I get to work, things kind of get tabled quickly.
Play out of it, but
Yeah.
what happens is, you mean the music gets you out of the bad mood.
Right.
That's what you're saying? Absolutely. 100%.
I mean, for me, it's always like walking through a door, and everything
absolutely.
just gets left the minute you kind of get there, and it doesn't matter. And I've been angry at the venue. I've been angry at another DJ. I've been
angry at the owners,
Yeah,
angry
whatever.
at a million things. I go to sound checks and they say, you go to the sound check and I say, well, if you just move this 10 inches, then it would work. And he said, oh, we can't do that. I said, well, how about if we just put a thing under here so it'll look like you moved it 10? Oh, we can't do that. Well, why'd you take me to a fucking sound check? I said, why'd you bring me here? I could have slept. You know what I'm saying? I was just on a plane for 16 hours. Thank you. So they can't do anything at the sound checks, and you're really mad and pissed off, but you get into that room and you know those people out there didn't cause this.
Yeah,
they
it's
didn't
just-
not move the turntable. They're there to see you. You gotta table it all, and you gotta just
Yeah, I
do
couldn't-
what you do.
I don't think I've ever had that kind of feeling of playing sort of with like a specific message. I mean, other than like a bigger, broader message for the whole crowd, but never like, oh, I'm angry about X, Y, and Z, so then I've never been able to.
There was this
I'd never
DJ
occurred to me, to be honest.
in the 70s named David Rodriguez, and he was really like a mother hen to everybody. And he definitely told people, you gotta talk to people in the music. If she's singing this and then you add that, it'll make a whole sentence, and that's what you're saying. So we all got that message very, very clearly. And like, we're on the right track. You're a free man. If you're a free man, we would put things together that to make whole sentences. And we definitely talked with our music. We played like a set of love or a set of hate. I mean, that's how
Right.
I was taught. But I never believed in the hate part of it. I didn't think that was a good motivation for anything since I was a kid. But in the 70s, to be honest with you, there were a lot of different factors going on. and a lot of drugs, and I sometimes didn't know if I was coming or going, and sometimes I got into that pissy kind of attitude with people. Not me. But when I play now, I'm very clear about what I'm doing and what needs to be done. And I don't fuck around with people's heads anymore because it's not right.
No.
I wouldn't put acid in your drink unless you really wanted it. So what was... We have another question?
Well, first question for me, will you put acid in my drink,
First
Coming
question-
up. Coming up.
please? Okay, so we're going to switch it a little more lighthearted.
Well, they don't hear the question that he's saying, so you got to repeat it. What?
They hear a little bit.
Okay. What?
So it's a more lighthearted question.
A lighthearted question. Thank
Do
you.
you ever just want to get out there and dance and say, fuck this DJ?
If you feel good, do you ever want to get
Or
out
do you
there
just- or
and
you just
dance
get out?
as a DJ? Well, I got to say that I love my music more than anyone else's music. So while I'm in the booth, I'm fucking boogieing. I am fucking dancing to every song because I love my own music. I just can't stand it. And that's how I got this bad back, because I be in there moving faster than you are.
Yeah,
What
I mean,
about-
I've always felt that way, and I mean, if it's a big crowd and it's a serious situation, you're in performance mode, so you're kind of locked in and working. But especially at a point in the night where, say, it's after 3 or it's 4, then it's party
Get
time.
on the floor
Yeah,
and
you want to
dan-
go out every
do a
once in a
little
while and
dance.
dance. I think it's awesome. One time at I was at APT playing late, and it was probably like 5 in the morning, and the R&B singer Maxwell showed up.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, and he showed up with like 3 or 4 of the most beautiful women.
Oh,
And he's like, I'm going to sing.
okay.
And I was like, no, you're not.
Why not? It's
I don't-
Maxwell.
I
I would
don't
have
know.
handed him a mic
Whatever.
and put on one of his records.
So I said,
It's like when Black Ivory was at Bottom Bottom. I handed him the
I
mic.
said,
Go ahead.
well, I was polite. I said, no, you don't have to. I said, just hang it. And he's ordering like, magnums of champagne. He's like,
Hey.
no, don't worry, man. He said, I come here a lot. Play that one record I like. And I said, what record? He goes, the Star Child record. So I played. I thought, you know what? That's not a bad request. It's
Right.
4:30. He's here with a crowd, and I put it on. He said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this." And he took the headphones and he plugged it into the mic, and he started singing. And
Into the headphones. It
and-
might work.
No,
you
but
know.
me being like, "Oh, this dick, he's gonna run." He was incredible. He was pitch perfect. He sounded beautiful. He didn't oversing the song. He simply harmonized with the song. It was gorgeous. So yeah, then I went out and danced. I had a ball.
So wait a minute. He took the headphones and plugged it into the mic, and it worked.
yeah, he just sang into the
Yeah, he
headphones.
sang into the headphones.
It
Yeah,
was incredible.
It works that way. You can do that.
And in that sense, like playing after hours, playing late night, when things get chaotic, it's awesome because it means that you've kind of crossed the mountain.
Right.
Everyone's had a good
You've
time.
allowed that energy to go where it needs to go. You're not controlling it.
And you get to the point where you're not programming in an architectural sense, and you're starting to play like it's a great feeling after people are soaked and they've worked all night to play some sweet stuff and to play like
It is.
an amazing record that has strong emotional weight, and to see people react to it, and also to send people home not on this high but on a take your time, ease them out the door. I mean that's
I was at Victor Rosado's birthday party in at his house in Florida, and I just, after a long night, he played Sharon Ridley, I'm Changing, and boy, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the best possible song he could have played. What's the question? You got a mic over there. Could you read it into the mic, babe? Fabu, that's Fabu
Question coming
man.
from Isaiah Garrett.
Fabu man.
Favorite memory working at Studio 54?
My favorite memory? My favorite memory. That's a good one. My favorite memory. Oh, my favorite memory was a night I wasn't working when Richie was working. And, I have 2 of them. Which one's better? Okay.
Looks like IZ is getting a twofer.
Let me ask that guy. Should it be a night that I'm working or a night that I'm not working, or it doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter? Okay. It doesn't matter.
Very vague.
My favorite night that I was at Studio 54 was the night Steve Rebell celebrated his birthday, and everyone knew that Liza Minnelli was going to be there. And you got to remember, this was 1978, so Liza Minnelli was the shit back then, and you know she had just won an Oscar. Well, 72 or 73, she won the Oscar, but she had a bunch of movies that were out, musicals that people loved, and she was going to be there, and the place was packed. Everyone's like, and I'm up in the balcony right in the front, and all the lights, I mean, every light in the place went out, and all you could hear is people going, and this something happened, and you didn't know what was people like, and on studio, all the lighting, all the shit that came up and down was manual. None of it was electronic. It was all by people pulling ropes like a theater, because that's what it was. And all of a sudden the light goes on in the middle of the room, a spotlight, and there's a full grand piano. Liza's sitting on it. Stevie's bended over looking at her like, Liza. And there's a piano player, and he plays this introduction, and she sings I Can't Give You Anything But Love, which was her mother's song, and she does the exact same arrangement. That was that was the chills that Studio 54 brought to me. You got to understand something about studio and why it remains one of the iconic places to go, because it was a Broadway show every night of the week, but spontaneous, so it always changed. And that kind of thing, if you've ever been to a Broadway show or a great show, it does something to you. It gives you a real charge.
And that's a very different experience than, you know, going to the loft or being at the gallery.
It's a totally different thing. That's like a showcase. You know, the gallery or the loft is like going to a party in someone's house with your friends,
Right.
your best friends.
Right. Yeah.
And often they were.
Yeah.
Your
So
best friends.
that is a different level of spectacle.
A whole different thing. Is there another one you said? No, that's it. Oh, well, the bitches went home. Okay, now, what were the strobe large parties?
Well, we covered those. Those were
the parties you did with the guy from
Darshan.
France?
No, he's not from France. He's from Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie. But you said he was traveling in from...
Well, no, he was away. He's a DJ. He travels all around the world.
Okay, yeah.
So he was helping, you know.
Like all DJs do.
Yeah, you got to
these
do what
days.
you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way to make some good money. Now, I went over this on the phone with you. You once ran over.
Oh, take her name. It's a joke.
Yeah,
I'm divorced. It's fine.
You're divorced. Okay. Oh, you ran over someone with your BMX bike? What's that about?
No, what is wrong with you?
I don't know.
Seriously.
Oh, you were run over by a BMX bike.
No, I was
read
not
it
run
kind
over
of
by
bad.
a BMX bike.
What does this say?
I was
he
on
was
a-
once
I
run
was-
over on his BMX bike.
I was on a BMX bike.
by an 18-wheel fuel oil truck.
There you go.
Did you make any money from that, baby?
I made a little bit.
Oil truck is
Yeah. I made
They
a
have
little.
deep
I almost
pockets.
bought the store.
Really?
I almost bought the store. Yeah, it was life or death there for a while.
Oh my God.
I spent a year in rehab. No joke. It was no
Wow.
joke.
What year was that?
It's got to be about 11 years ago, 10 years ago. It was
And
serious.
Is there any sustained problems with anything?
My knee kills me every day. I don't have feeling in this thigh.
Me either, but that's from an overdose.
Were you there?
Same thigh.
We're here all week. Tip your waitress. No, it was a really intense thing, and it was a horrible experience. I used to ride I still ride a bike, but I had a studio in Long Island City. I was a new dad, and so when I had
Your
time,
son was just born.
he's maybe 2.5.
Oh my God.
So I would ride, go up to the studio, try and get some work done, come back, jump back into Dad. And it was, it was early in the evening, and his truck driver, I think he was really high on drugs, took the turn, and the trailer fishtailed, knocked me off the bike,
God.
and then the truck ran over me. And,
Oh my God.
And the
Sounds like a nightmare.
yeah, the doctor said to me, he said, fortunately, it was at the end of his run, so the truck was empty. He said, if it was full of fuel, you would have died. He said, you caught a break. And I was...
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. It was in the
Look
one...
on the bright side.
And I remember being at the hospital and people who had done promo work for our party showing up. And this one kid, he saw me, he goes, Kane, I'm going to say this. You're fucked up. And if I wasn't on morphine, I would have smacked him. But it was really intense.
But
And
you laughed a lot.
I was there, I was in the hospital for a while, and then I spent a year in rehab. And it was no joke. It was absolutely no joke.
Yeah, hospitals are no joke. That reminds me of a day I went to visit my best friend in the hospital who had just had a nose job. And I figured, I'll bring my camera. We'll take some funny pictures with him. And we get there. He's got 2 black eyes. He looks terrible. And I go to him, well, we brought the camera to take pictures with you. But honestly, you're all fucked up, man. And I don't want you to see this
Nicky
later.
bedside manner.
And he started laughing so much. Don't make me laugh. Oh, my God, my nose is going to... And then afterwards he kept saying, does it look Roman? No, it still had a big lump on it, Louis. What
You look like a Roman fighter.
a Roman fighter. Exactly. You got it. So the divorce, it's over?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Oh.
I'm not going to discuss that.
Oh,
Better than the question
see?
is-
Things he doesn't want to talk about. Why?
I love being a dad, though. And I'm
sure you do.
really, really proud of my son. He's a great, great kid. And as I said, it's really interesting seeing growing up in a household of art, how his own sensibility, without me kind of pushing it in any way, is
Right.
forming. And he's got really good taste in film. He's got good taste in music. He's got good taste in literature.
How old is he? 11?
13.
13.
And he likes
Seminal.
He likes Joseph Heller. The Hateful Eight, I think, is his favorite
Cool.
film.
So many people say that Hateful Eight is their
Yeah.
favorite film. I don't
So.
see it.
Anyway.
You said that to me? Someone, your favorite film too?
It's not my favorite, but that's great.
I mean, Inglourious Bastards to me was
That's
the
my
best
favorite.
so far.
Well, I'll have my son come, and you two can argue Tarantino's.
A list of. Oh, you have one more
Another
question?
That's going to change the gears, though.
Sure, that's fine.
Sure. We're not.
Bernard has read that Francis Grasso invented the beat matching technique. So
You want?
Well,
He didn't know Francis Grasso.
I didn't know.
did.
I didn't know him, but go ahead. You go first.
Francis, they never beat matched that far back. What they did was this blending technique that was all about timing. Beat matching is a science. You hold it on the beat, you change the speed of the record, and then you let it go on the beat, and you create 2 layers of a recording that totally matches BPM wise. What Francis was doing was he was getting records that were similar in beats, BPMs, and he was turning it up at just the right time so that you could dance through the change. It didn't always work, and all of us were doing that. Now, he did try to create BPMs, but a lot of people were doing it until Richie Kazar and I started holding the records with felt underneath the albums and underneath the 45s. No one really was beat matching. The science, holding it on the beat, letting go on the beat, changing the BPM of the record to match the other one. Because when Francis was playing, the turntables didn't even have a variable speed.
Yeah, and there's
He
no
was-
backspin.
Right. And there was no backspin. You couldn't hold the record. So he didn't really, not beat matching per se. He was very influential in the scene. Very influential. And he really did bring in a way of playing that wasn't very common back then, which was blending the records so that you could dance through the transition. But when you're doing that by just eye and just your instincts, it's not really the science. The science of beat matching is the science. You just hold it on the beat. You change the. I told you already.
And also the other thing is, you're talking about a time where DJs played a lot of 45s. They played album cuts. There wasn't this endless supply of 12s. So
you don't know what it was like back then.
So
you were busy, honey.
Yeah, there's a kind of dynamic in programming that's necessity as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's very funny, you see someone now who just syncs up CDJs, and it's boring.
It is boring. And the CDJs, most of those people do it with the program that's built into the CDJs, and it matches for you. I don't do that because I play a lot of records which vary in speed, and they're old records, and they don't stay on the beat all the time. So the program has more of a problem with that than I have doing it live. But 90% of those DJs who are doing those great mixes where they go on for 2 minutes and they match perfectly, it's all because of this program that's built into the tables. So what is that talent? If they're picking the right record, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I think that for an audience, you can captivate an audience by having, a kind of authority and approaching things in a lot of ways. You don't always have to blend, although obviously for disco records and house records where there are breaks, I mean, it lends itself to that, and it lends itself to building. But going back to what I was saying earlier, like playing an amazing Bill Withers 45, because it fits into the context that you've created,
Right, exactly.
then the mixing part doesn't really matter.
It doesn't
Volume, knowing when to get in, when to get out, all those things matter.
right?
And, there's certainly a lot of really bad DJs who mix very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kane. Citizen Kane. Final words, I've never heard better. Okay, we're going to do one last thing. At Nicky Siano Live, we are totally supported by your donations right now. So if you don't want to have 25 minutes of commercials next week, please give to GoFundMe.com/Nicky Siano Live. I believe the address is at the bottom of the screen right now, www.GoFundMe.com. Please give something, and I want to say thank you very much, Dennis. Thanks for coming by. Came all the way out to Brooklyn on the train. Oh my God, you might have been mugged.
I know. I was home eating.
You were constant.
Eating chocolates and
and comfortable.
Shout out to DC LaRue on the check-in.
Okay.
What's up, brother?
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
See you
Have
next
a good night,
week
everyone.
with Jeannie Hopper.
Jeannie Hopper. What's
Not
up,
putting
Miley
the-
Percocet?
Good.
Good one. Nice and easy. Good flow.
We're still on.
Yeah.
Should I turn the mics up?
Ready for Nicky Siano. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Fred Stack and Marvin Blue. Along the way with special guests for you. Get ready for Nicky Siano. Come on, let's go. Yeah.